And thank you so much for joining us today on the Game Changer for Real Estate Agents and Brokers, Winning with Digital Prospecting. And we're really excited today to have HomeActions with us. They have a really neat program they're going to take you through today. And we're going to get right into it. So, Barry, if you can switch us to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about you and me, and then we'll go from there. So I am Marilyn Wilson. I'm one of the co-founders of RE Technology, and I'm also one of the founding partners of WAV Group. And some of you may have seen some of the research that we've done over the years. And we talk a lot about how to really build the best relationships you can with your customers. And Barry's going to give us some really good ideas about some of the fundamentals of how to do that successfully. And Barry Friedman is here joining us today, too. He is the CEO and co-founder of HomeActions. He's got some really good insights for us he's going to share. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about him. First of all, he's a CPA, so he probably has more schooling. I know certainly that I do, maybe than some of you as well. He has a terrific background in the areas he's going to talk to us about today. He has, as you see, a CPA background, but what he was able to do is to build a very effective direct marketing program in the accounting business that's very similar to what he's going to show us that we do in real estate today. He's actually done that for 15 years. He's building and managed the email businesses. And he's done 25 years of consulting with small and medium-sized businesses. So he's got a lot of on-the-ground, real-world experience about what it's like to run a brokerage and run small businesses and what it takes to build solid customer relationships and grow your business.
That's good. I was like,
so with that, I'm going to turn it over to him and let him go forward for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. I'm really excited about being here. We have a lot of people on the call, so that's particularly exciting. I'll just tell you a short story. The last time that I had to give a talk was around 6 o'clock at night. I was expecting a whole room full of people to attend, and one person attended. So I waited about 5 minutes, and nobody else came. So I figured, well, if this person was nice enough to come, I should go on and give my talk. So I gave my talk and spoke for a half hour. And afterwards, I said, I really appreciate that you stayed for my session. And do you have any questions that I can help you with? And he asked a couple of really good questions. And then I said, well, look, I really appreciate it. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. He said, well, there is one thing. Could you hang around because I'm the next speaker? So when I see all of you that are attending, I don't worry about this anymore, and it warms my heart. So thanks for coming, and I want to tell you a little bit about HomeActions. HomeActions is an outgrowth of BizActions. BizActions I started over 15 years ago when emails were hardly being collected, and the strategy there was to provide a content-rich newsletter for CPA firms. That then grew into payroll companies and law firms and banks. And then we were approached to sell that company, and Thomson Reuters bought that company. Well, before selling, I had started another company called HomeActions with my partner, Albert Clark, and we adopted the exact same strategies in BizActions to HomeActions. And in fact, some of the technology was the same, although we've now rebuilt it. So HomeActions is really the outgrowth from BizActions. Its primary target market is residential real estate agents, commercial real estate agents, and mortgage agents. And what we do is we produce an email newsletter that contains content. And it has a very unique content strategy, which I'm going to share with you. In fact, it's so unique, I think, that it's fair to say nobody in the country has the same strategy. And I will communicate with you later on about how that content strategy is so important in today's digital world. Currently, we have more than 30 employees, and to me, that's a pretty significant number from the point of view that this is all we do. We don't build websites, sell websites, do any print newsletters. All we do is focus on this one item, which is the real estate community, digital marketing for them, and that's what I'm going to go over with you. We have currently more than 4,000 agents that are using our platform throughout the United States, and it's growing rapidly. And I'm going to go over some of those reasons why it's growing. And we also send out about 3 million newsletters a month on behalf of those 4,000 agents. We own our own technology. We built our own technology. We just enhanced the old technology that I was using, and the new platform has been released between April and June of 2014. So we're very excited about that. So that's a thumbnail of HomeActions. What I wanted to do, and probably this presentation is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to, because I'm focusing more from a management point of view, from a business point of view. And I wanted to talk to you about how do you build your business? What do you have to do, whether you're an individual agent, whether you're a broker, whether you're a team, whether you run multiple offices, or whether you're a multi-channel company. The concepts are all the same. And the first question that I would ask is, what's the greatest asset of any real estate agent? What is that asset that you really have or should have that you're going to build your business off of and you're going to leverage? Because until we answer that question, then we're just running around in circles, because there's an asset that every company has that they must build, they must nurture, they must grow. So when they do, more opportunities will come their way. That asset is an organized, nurtured database. And I want to stop here for a second, because to tell you that we have been in hundreds of real estate offices, and we always ask the question when we're presenting, how many of you have a database? And I would tell you that probably 8 out of 10 do not have a database. And the reason that they don't have a database is because they don't know how to put it together. Most people that have entered the real estate market are not technology educated. They didn't come into real estate because they were great people with computers. They came into real estate because they were great salespeople and great people, and they know how to deal with people, but not necessarily computers. So what we found was that it was very difficult to put together this database. Now, why is that database so important? Because when you have that database, you can now be thinking about marketing programs, whether it's print, flyers, emails, whatever the campaign is, you're going to use that database or a subset of that database to be able to launch those campaigns. In that database, you should have clients, prospects, referral sources, everybody that you know that you want to communicate with. Your sphere of influence should be in that database. And you should have a consistent plan for adding to that database. A database is not a one-time deal. It is something that you build, you nurture, you organize, and the larger that database, the more leads you're going to have and the more opportunities for sales. In fact, in my opinion, your database is valuable and is transferable. It's the intellectual property of your business. And if you look at any business, they all have intellectual property, things that aren't on the balance sheet, but really represent the real meat and potatoes of that business, whether it be patents or database or client base, whatever it is, you've got to figure it out. And I believe for real estate agents, it is having that database. Now, is it easy to get and put together? No, it's not. But here's what I would like to do next. I'd like to go into what is a leader's main job. Now, first off, who's a leader? A leader is anybody who's in business for themselves. They could be leading themselves. You have a business. If you're an individual agent, you're in business for yourself, and you're as much of a leader over your business as the person who has an office with 50 people in it or who's running a very large company. The concepts are identical. And here's what you have to do. as a leader, you have to establish what are the philosophies and strategies of your company. What is your belief system? We all go around and we tell our kids, well, look both ways before you cross the street. Well, that's not a strategy. That's a philosophy. You believe in that. Education is a philosophy. We want our children to get a college education. It's not just a strategy to make more money. It's something that we believe in. So you have to establish your philosophies. You then have to figure out what your strategies are. How are you going to go to market? And when you think about strategies, you think about the 5 Ps: product, place, people, promotion, and place. And I'm not going to go through that now because that's not the purpose of this session. But the first thing as a leader, you establish your philosophies, your belief system, you establish some basic strategies, and then if you're building an organization, you must hire the right people for the key positions. You must first figure out what is the key position in my company and what must I do to find the very best people for that key position. After that, you have to focus the company primarily through strategic planning. You've got to say, okay, I've got these philosophies, I have some strategies, I've got some key people. How am I going to focus? How am I going to go to market? What am I specifically going to do? Because you don't want to just run around chasing your tail. You want to have an aim. So you obviously need some goals and objectives, and you need to be able to go after it. And then the next thing that you do, and the part that I've really highlighted here, is you must manage key activities for success. It isn't good enough that you manage everything because there's too many things to manage. You have to manage the key activities for success. And you have to figure out what are those key activities for success and make sure that you manage them. And in my opinion, a key activity for success in real estate is building, organizing, and nurturing your key asset, your most important intellectual property, your database. And if you have a database of 50 names, that's a good start. But imagine if you had a database of 1,000 names. And imagine if you could nurture that and organize it and stay in touch with them and communicate with them. Imagine what that has as a potential for your business. Your business could double or triple if you could manage that database effectively. Now, what are the key activities and how do you manage them? Well, first off, what is an activity, a key activity? A key activity is something that you're going to do that's going to influence results. It's not that I'm going to have so many dollars in listings or so many sales. It's the activities that go into producing those listings or those sales. So what you must do is you must do database development. Each agent should do database development, and in my opinion, every broker should help their agents do database development. And how do you manage it? Well, the first thing you do is you assign somebody who's responsible for the program to be able to build everybody's database or to help them build it. You set goals, you measure results, and you report on them. A partner of mine once said that if you want to change behavior, you must measure it. If you want to change your behavior because you're not building a database, then you must measure it. You must have some goals and you must have some objectives. Set a goal of getting 10 new names in your database per week. At the end of the year, that's 500 names. That's not a bad database. That's a heck of a database. Build some motivation. If you're in a team or you're in a company, build some motivation around doing this. Provide recognition for those people that accomplish it. Utilize contests. Get creative. Figure out how to get those names. Hire some kids that go into a community and try to get their email addresses. What you have to do is you have to show agents how to leverage their database for success. Now, one of the things to do is you could get started with HomeActions or any other email company and build a relationship for the future with your sphere of influence, with your database. Now that you have a database, you've got to do something with it. So what do we do to help you create a database. As I mentioned to you, we started in really going after real estate agents about 2 years ago in a very large, organized fashion. And what we found, to our shock and amazement, is they don't have databases. And then what we found is today, in the digital world, it's very hard to put together a database because people have names and contacts in 4, 5, 6 different places. You might have contacts in Facebook. You might have contacts in your MLS system. You might have contacts in your own system, in Outlook, in Google. So they're all over the place. Now when we help people put together databases, it's not unusual that we're putting together databases from 4 or 5 or 6 different places. We end up gathering a huge amount of names, much more than the client ever expected, because a lot of these systems create these contacts that they didn't even know and that they haven't communicated with in years. So what we do is we actually go in at no cost to an agent. We will go in with your permission. We will log into your computer. You can see everything that we do. We go into each one of these accounts. You don't tell us the passwords. You put the passwords in. And we export your contacts from all the different sources, maybe 5 or 6 different sources. We then clean and sanitize it. Now, what do I mean by clean and sanitize it? We take all of your contacts and we first dedupe them, because we're obviously going to have multiples that we find. We then figure out, are these email addresses any good? They may be from 2 or 3 years ago and the person has left the job or they moved out of the area. So we have to sanitize them. Well, we run them through another service. We don't charge you for this, but we paid for it. And that service sends out a ping, basically pings that email address to find out whether or not it truly still exists. If it exists, we leave it in your database. If it doesn't exist, we take it out. Now, why is that important? Because today, in order to limit spam, the email companies of the world have decided to rate you as a sender of emails and give you a sender score. And that sender score is kind of like a rating in a bond, like a AAA bond. If you have a bad sender score, then many of these email companies are not going to deliver your emails. So in your case, the sender score is aggregated with HomeActions. So if HomeActions has a bad sender score, which we don't, but if we did, the deliverability of your emails would go very low. So what we do is, to make sure that we don't have a bad score, is every single email that's added to the platform goes through a filter to see if that email exists. So that's part of our cleaning process. We also have a whole list of emails we won't send to. We won't send to emails that are generic, because we know that very often they're not good emails. And we won't send to known spam traps. And we have all kinds of processes that we go through to make sure that you have the highest deliverability rate possible. After we do all that, we put it together in our platform, and we provide a review process for you. So now, for the very first time, you're going to see your database in one place, cleaned up, deduped. And if we did nothing else for you but this, our services, in my opinion, is the price of our service is worth just building that database for you, because you can now export the database and you can use it for all kinds of other items. Well, you get to review it, and you get to put a check mark next to those items that you don't want to send any newsletters to. And our system will automatically take them out. We then consolidate them, and we upload them into our platform. As a result of this, we have an average of over 300 emails per contact, per agent. So if you take the 300 average and you take the number of agents we have, that comes to about 1,200,000 contacts that are in our database that we're sending newsletters to every 2 weeks, which is close to 3 million newsletters per week, per month. Now, the concept of leverage, what you really want to do in digital marketing is to leverage. That's why you do social media, because you're leveraging your name to a lot of different places. Well, the idea of having a sphere of influence is to be able to communicate to them on a regular basis and leverage your contacts so that people know who you are. Because if you have 300 or 400 people in your database, is it really logical or possible that you're going to be in touch with all of those people? The answer is no. It's impossible to do it. So the question is, how do you do it? Well, you could send print newsletters, or you could send print material, or you could send flyers. But as you and I well know, that's a very expensive process. So what most people are doing today is they're using emails to do it. But you got to get delivered, and that's why that sanitation and sender score is very important. But what this leveraging does for you, it gives you multiple touches. So if you're sending out every 2 weeks, which is what the vast majority of our clients are doing, you're getting 26 touches per year. Think about that. 26 times your newsletter is going out with your brand, the broker's brand, plus a lot of content. And very good content, I should add. But 26 times. If you talk to anybody in public relations or in marketing, they'll tell you you've got to have multiple touches to be able to get business. The strategy is very simple. We want them to think about you when they're in the mood for a transaction. And we know that people don't buy and sell houses all the time, so how are you going to stay in touch with them? This is the method that you do it. It is partly a long-term strategy to stay in touch with your sphere of influence, so when they're ready for a transaction, or when they know somebody that's ready for a transaction, they'll think of you because they've been getting 26 emails from you. It's push technology. You all have websites, but truthfully, how many people come to your website? Not a lot of people come to the website. In fact, very few people come to the website. And worse than that, the website is, to get to some of the better things that you have, it's often deep inside your website and very hard to get to. Well, think about this. We push out your website in the form of this newsletter. We're a distribution system because you can add links to special reports, or you can add links to your listings, or whatever other information you want to promote. You can do that in this newsletter and push it out. So now if you have 300 people, you're pushing it out to all 300 people. It's low cost. When you actually add up this thing, it's a little bit more than $1 a day to be able to do this. So very low cost, less than the cost of a cup of coffee. There's reporting tools. The reporting tools are very robust. Why are the reporting tools important? Because it tells you how many people are opening the newsletter, how many they're clicking on articles, and more importantly, which articles they're clicking on. And I'm going to go over that a little bit more to show you what the secret sauce of HomeActions is as it relates to reporting tools. And more importantly than anything else, it drives traffic back to your website. If you have a good newsletter, you will drive people back to your website, and you'll get more exposure than you had before, especially if you have some special landing pages. But what you have to understand is that not all newsletters are created equally. There are differences among newsletters, and you have to understand those differences, and that's part of what I'm going to try to share with you today. Now, the first thing that's really important to understand is content strategy. The question first is, why have one? Why do you need a content strategy? The reason you need a content strategy is because of the concept of unsubscribes. If somebody unsubscribes from your newsletter, you can't send them again. The Can-Span Act requires that everybody have the ability to unsubscribe and that you not send them a newsletter or any kind of communication again. So if you know that that's a big fundamental difference between print and emailing, the question is, how do you make sure they don't unsubscribe? Well, you can be sure if you send them something out that says, look at me, I'm great, I can do this, I want referrals, they're going to unsubscribe, and you can't send them again. So the way that you make sure that the unsubscribe rate is as low as possible is by having quality content that they have an interest in, that's going to help them, that's going to change their life a little bit. And that content is all about the management of a home. It's not about chicken pot pie recipes or doing mundane things. It's about the management of a home, because this is the biggest asset that most people have, and our strategy is to help them manage that asset better. So in the short term, with an effective newsletter content strategy, you're going to get leads. In the long term, you're going to stay in touch with them and get leads also. But it's going to be slower because not everybody's ready for a transaction. Now, what we built is something called trigger articles. And a trigger article supports this concept of short-term leads. What we're doing with trigger articles is we write articles in various categories. We have 6 or 7 categories, which I'll show you. And the articles are written by our editors in a special way so that if somebody clicks on that article, you're going to be notified that they clicked immediately, if you so decide. And because they clicked on a trigger article, it's going to tell you that you have a potential buyer or you have a potential seller. As an example, you put in an article in fact, I saw one of these recently. A person advertised a corner lot for sale and gave the address and gave some other details, and they had 8 people click on that article. Now, not only are those 8 people potential buyers of that particular lot, but more importantly, every one of them is a potential customer because they wouldn't be clicking on that article but for the fact they're interested in buying something. So maybe they're not buying your lot, they're going to buy some other lot. You need to call them. And if I can tell you who those people are and what they clicked on, that's going to be a warm lead for you. Now, in the CPA world, we would provide these warm leads, and CPAs wouldn't call. I mean, they're just anti-sales. But in the real estate world, you guys are all about sales. So if I can provide you a warm lead, wouldn't you prefer to call them rather than to do cold calling? So that's what the trigger articles do. Here's another example of a trigger article we did recently. One was, it was an article about do you need help or strategies for being able to accumulate money for a down payment. Now, why would anybody read that article unless they had some interest in buying a house? Or they knew somebody, or maybe one of my kids needed some help, and I wanted to click on it. Well, if you knew that that was clicked on by 5 people, you'd be crazy not to contact them and start talking to them about real estate. So that's what a trigger article is. We're then coming out with, we don't have this finished yet, but it's almost finished, target market articles. The target market articles we found are really very important. Almost everybody in the industry has a newsletter, but it's a plain vanilla newsletter. Everybody gets the same newsletter. Well, does that really make sense? I mean, suppose somebody lives in New York. They're not interested in what somebody would be interested in that lives in a rural area or who is interested, who doesn't live with condos and co-ops. So we've created a series of different target market articles that you can use that are about urban articles, shore property articles. I'll go over the list with you in a minute, but there's about 8 or 9 articles. So you can look at these categories and you can add them to your newsletter. Some of them are going to cost extra. We haven't decided how to price it yet. But you'll be able to select what market articles you want. And I think that's a game changer in terms of being able to communicate. See, the whole idea here is to help position you as the most trusted advisor in real estate. That's what we're doing. We've embraced an education strategy with this newsletter, although we write a lot of the content. It's not branded to us. It appears as if you've written all the articles. But we want you to be seen as the go-to person, as the trusted advisor, in the same way that the CPA firms have embraced that strategy for years. They went on a whole PR campaign that CPAs are the most trusted advisor in business. Well, I believe, and in fact I know, that you guys are the most trusted advisor in real estate. Well, how can we help you embrace that? We can help you embrace it by having quality content, not me content, but quality content that's about the management of the home. And having target market articles helps to embrace that strategy. Now, when you put this content strategy together, here's what a newsletter begins to look like. At the top of the newsletter, we have the masthead, the brokerage firm, and information about the agent, and up to 6 links. And those links can be anything. Generally, the links are back to your website. So when we're sending this out every 2 weeks, and we've got these 6 links, people tend to click one of these links and they get back to your website. So you're going to get more traffic there. We then have an area where you can have up to 4 articles that are about things that you write. It could be ad trigger articles that you pick. It could be target market articles. It could be your listings. You can have up to 4 of them. And you put them in there. And by the way, you can set every article that you put into the system, you can set a notification. You can say, if anybody clicks that particular article and decides to read it, I want to be notified immediately. Our system will send you an email immediately. If you think that's too much, we'll send you a report once a day. If you don't want that report, you don't have to set it up. You can go into the back end of the system and see who clicked on what articles. So the next section is your content, because we think that's the most important content, the things that you decide to add. Then we have our content, and there's generally up to 4 articles, 3 or 4 articles, and these are articles about the management of your home, about business ideas, about taxes. They're professionally written, and they're different every 2 weeks. And then we have hyper-local content. And why do we have hyper-local content? Because we found out from you that you would like local things in your newsletter. So we have 2 hyper-local content articles that you don't have to do anything to get them. They're just there. They're free. One of them is a local events calendar, which I'll show you a little bit later. And the other one is Know Your Neighborhood. In both of those pieces of content, you can put in any zip code you want and a radius, and all the local events within 25 miles or 50 miles or 100 miles will come up. It's a great tool, especially if somebody wants to go on vacation or they're thinking of moving out of the area. They can get all kinds of local events. Also, Know Your Neighborhood. We'll give you all kinds of demographics of any neighborhood in the United States. And I'll show you that in a second. But this is the overall content strategy. Now, because of this content strategy, because of the quality of the articles, the unsubscribe rate is very low. People look forward to getting these articles because there's quality information in here. It helps them. And now let's go a little bit deeper. Here's what a masthead looks like. And here you can see my website, my listings, property search for buyers, for sellers, about me. I've seen some people put in here community information, other kinds of things in the community that they're specializing in. We have some people that buy a newsletter, and instead of branding the newsletter just about themselves or just about a Coldwell Banker, they'll leave Coldwell Banker on there, but it'll be the name of the community. So the idea behind that is to get all the email addresses that you can in that community and create the perception that you're the expert for that community. And when I was in the CPA business, I wanted to specialize in wholesalers, and I didn't have any wholesalers, but I started a newsletter for wholesalers. And the perception was that I must be an expert if I have a newsletter. And all of a sudden, I began getting a lot of wholesalers as clients. And you and I both know that if you can position yourself as an expert in a community or in a type of property, and you can get that word out, you're going to get a lot more business than you otherwise would have gotten. We add social media links. So if you're into social media, we have the links. And not only do we have the links here, but on every article, you can take every single article that we have and you can post it on Facebook or wherever you want to post it. So we give you the content that you can put into your social media system. Here's some of the articles that we write. Clever wallpaper projects. These tricks and tools to get annoying backyard pests. They're good quality articles. They're not light articles. They're really good. Here's the how well do you know your neighborhood article. Now I want you to notice one thing. You see that there's buttons here on every article. So here's full article, save the article. Well, every single article has this button that says full article. Now, that's the secret sauce of HomeActions. Because when you click full article, you're going to get the full article in a landing page and brand it to you. But we collect data. What time was it clicked? What day was it clicked? And what email address clicked it? And because we collect that data, we now have a roadmap as to what people are reading, and that's how we get the trigger articles. That's how we find out whether or not you have a warm lead or not. And when we write these articles, we try to write them. We call this the title, and we call this the teaser. And we try to write them in such a way so that, so that it has a reference to full article. Click full article, link below. Click the article below to see what's happening in local events in your area. We're trying to promote clicking full article so that you'll get the clicks. And you'll have the intelligence to know what is being read and whether or not you should contact these people. I just reviewed a newsletter put out by a large brokerage firm recently. It was a nice-looking newsletter comprising 3 articles in it, but it was the whole article. It was a very long newsletter, and it was one article, the whole thing, then the second article, then the third article, and there was not one link in the article. There was no way to gain intelligence, because if you don't have this link, this button, there's no way to know if anybody's clicking on that article. We can determine if somebody opened the newsletter, but we can't find out who's clicking. And by the way, the open rates that we're seeing right now are quite high. They're between 30 and 40% open rates across the board, which we're very excited about, and we think it's because people are getting a newsletter from somebody they know and they trust. Here's an example of neighborhood information. You put in a city, state, or zip code, and it'll give you all these statistics, school, pupil, and college grads. It gives you all type of information. Here's what happens if you click on the events article. Potomac, Maryland, 25 miles. So I put in 20854. It came up and said, that's Potomac, and what radius do you want? I want 25 miles. And it listed by day. Now, believe it or not, we've made a deal with this company, because we don't do this. We license this, and we provide it to you free. But we've also made a deal with this company that you can put your open houses in here. So anytime you have an event or prospect of yours has an event, they can put that event into the system free. You can also put in open houses in the system free. If you want to pay a little bit of extra money, you can get branding a higher position in this thing so that you maybe will get more traffic. Now, here's just a few special benefits of HomeActions that I want to go over. I'm not going to go over all of them because I've talked to you about most of them already. But there's a couple that I think you should know. Email exclusivity. Very, very important concept. Whether or not you do it with us or you do it with somebody else, you should be aware of this concept. Nobody can send a newsletter, a HomeActions newsletter, to your contacts. It's that simple. We put a lock on the email addresses that you upload into our system. And when that lock is in that system, nobody can send an email to them. Not the agent down the street, not somebody across the hall. They're yours. And that email exclusivity is one of the corner pins of our platform. And this is a very important concept for you to really think about, because your database is your database, nobody else's, and nobody can send anything to those people unless you leave our system. We provide all the content that you need. 80% of our people, maybe 70% of the people, set it and forget it. What they want is to be positioned as the homeowner advisor. They don't have to do anything. It goes out 26 times a year. You'll get all kinds of metrics. They just want the branding. They don't have time to do the work or to add all this other kinds of content. That's fine. You can do that. Notification system I've talked to you about. You can add listings, virtual tours, market reports. More importantly, if you don't know how to do it, we're going to help you. We have free customer support. We believe in a raving fan strategy on customer support. That means we want you to really sing the praises of HomeActions. So while we try to educate you and we try to teach you, if you don't want to do that or you can't get it, we'll do it for you. We're also adding some other enhancements that I won't go into now that'll make it even easier for you to find your way around the system. Trigger articles and target market articles we talked about. Brokers. In the broker edition of the newsletter, let's say you have 30 agents that are using the newsletter, we can add content into each of those editions provided the agent approves it. So if you want to add banners, if you want to add special articles, we can do that. We also have the ability for a broker to write articles, lock them for use only by their agents, and nobody else can use them. We have one brokerage firm in Pennsylvania that does that, They write certain articles that they think the agent should deliver. We lock them in the system, and the agents can go there and pick them up and put them in. We also have website sign-up forms, which I didn't go over, and I probably should have had a picture of it, but I'm sorry about that. But it's a very, very simplified form. We give you the code. You can have people from your website sign up. You can have people from your Facebook, from LinkedIn, from any place you want. You can send a bunch of emails out and ask people to sign up for your newsletter. And once they sign up for your newsletter, they're automatically sent a thank you, and they're automatically told when their next newsletter will be coming, and they're automatically added to your database. So we build a very simple system for you to help you get that database going. Trigger articles. Here's the categories of trigger articles we have: buying and selling, retirement, investing in real estate, vacation seller, vacation buyer, first-time home buyers. Each category of trigger articles has a number of articles underneath of it. You'll be given the opportunity to look at those and decide which ones you want to add to your newsletter. Future enhancements of trigger articles will be the ability to send them out automatically. You'll just press a couple of buttons and say, I want these 3 categories, and I want to send out a trigger article each time automatically. That's not ready yet. Target market articles. This is what we currently have. We have articles in all these categories: luxury, condos, managing investment property, adult community, shore homes, urban, vacation, distressed properties, and new homes. I think we've collaborated with a lot of people in our firm as well as a lot of real estate agents to come up with what are some of the specialties, the major specialties. Excuse me, and I think we've captured most of them. We haven't figured out yet how we're going to price this. We're probably going to give one target market category free with the subscription, but if you want to buy others, there'll be some kind of bundled arrangement. But we haven't done it yet. So here's a quick summary. The first and most important thing, in my opinion, is the importance of a database. You've got to have that database. The second item is the leader or the CEO's focus on managing key activities. And one of those key activities is the management of databases. The other important element we talked about are creating email newsletters to grow your business, why the content strategy is so important, why a short-term strategy with trigger articles is so important, that's going to get you warm leads right away, and the long-term strategy on home management articles. And most importantly, to understand not all newsletters are created equal, and that if you go into the market, or even if your current broker has an email platform, take a look to see if they have the bells and whistles that make this thing really work. Just send out a newsletter for the sake of sending out a newsletter is not really what you want to do. You want this thing to work. So I want you to sit back and imagine for a second. Imagine that you manage an office, own an office, and you have 30 agents, and that each agent has 300 contacts because we help build that database. The lists are growing every month because you have managed contacts, and you try to help the agents get more people in the database. The newsletters are going out every 2 weeks with trigger articles included. So that means your office is sending out 9,000 newsletters, 30 times 300, every 2 weeks, or 20,000 per month, or roughly $250,000 per year. Now, I want you to think about how much more business could you do if you had that many articles, that many newsletters going out. How many more listings could your people have? How many more sales could they have? How many more mortgages might you get? Do you think 30 extra deals a year is reasonable? That is, each agent could get one more deal per year? In my opinion, that's low. That's conservative. Then what you have to do is you have to say, okay, if I can get 30 extra deals a year, based on where I'm located, based on the average sale price, based on what my normal commission split, what's that worth? And I submit to you that if you put pencil to paper, you're going to find that it's worth a lot of money and that you have the potential of increasing your business dramatically just by following this game plan. And my favorite saying is, opportunities never come to those who wait. They're captured by those who dare to attack. This is new. It's a little bit different, but I'm telling you it works. And it works if you give it a little bit of effort. What it requires more than anything else is leadership. It requires somebody at the top saying, we want you to do this because it's important. We just went to North Carolina, and we got buy-in from the company. I'm not going to say who the company is or any of those other things, but we've been doing demos there for the last week. And I tell you, 80% of the people who came to the demo bought the product. 80%. Now, 80% bought it because they see the value proposition here. It's a very low-cost, high-potential, high-return on investment product. It's probably the lowest cost, highest ROI of any product that you could possibly buy. And it's at the core of what you need to build your business, which is that database that we build for you free. So what are the next steps? Well, if you're an agent or you're a broker and you just want to try it out, you can go to HomeActions.net, and one of the links is pricing, or I forgot the exact link, and you can buy the product. The price of the product on the web is $495 a year. Because you came to this meeting and invested the time with me today, when it asks for a promotion code, or it might say coupon code, put in the word WEB100, and you'll immediately get a discount of $100 off the price. If you want to just do a monthly deal, you can sign up for $40 a month with a setup fee of $95, and you can quit any time that you want. If you're a brokerage firm and you're interested in the enterprise edition of HomeActions, where we'll talk to you and help figure out how can we set this up for your office and make it work best. And when I say make it work best, I really try to tell brokers, don't give this to agents free, because free is what it's worth. It's not worth a lot of money. Agents have to be invested in this, and they have to do something. And I believe that you should pay a certain percentage of the cost of this product. And by the way, if you're an enterprise edition and you buy a whole bunch of licenses, we reduce the price. But what I think you should do is that the amount that maybe the agent reimburses you for, or maybe the amount that they can submit on for reimbursement, is based on how many emails they add to the platform. The success factor here is the number of emails that they put in the platform. So if somebody puts in 100 emails to the platform, maybe they get one price. If they put in 300 emails, they get a higher discount, and so forth. And what I would like to do is help you figure out how to work that in your company so that you really get the biggest bang for your buck. Our real goal is to help you grow your business through this methodology. As a special incentive, if you call me today or tomorrow, as a result of this meeting, we'll give you a free web sign-up form. It's normally $99 a year. We'll give it to you free, and you can put that on your website and start gathering email addresses from all different sources. So that's the presentation. I really thank you. I appreciate your time.
We have some questions for you, Barry, from the audience, so I'm going to read them to you, and maybe you can help us with them. So the first one is, can you explain the email exclusive lock? Does that mean that any other agents using your program can't email them? It can't mean no one can email them. Just explain it a little bit.
On the exclusivity, it means that if another agent in your office subscribes to HomeActions, they cannot email your contacts.
Got it. Okay.
Now,
and what if
they
someone
don't
in
use
another
HomeActions, then they can't. But what happens is we go into an office and we get a lot of people in that office, or we'll go across the street and we'll get, we can deal with competitors because a competitor is not really a competitor because they don't have the right to your email addresses. So even if you upload a prospect email address, somebody else across the street who's a competitor can't use that email address if they use HomeActions.
Got it. Okay. So a related question. Once we would upload our database to HomeActions, do you, as HomeActions, use it for your own company? Like, do you use those emails to then market HomeActions?
Absolutely not. No. First off, those are consumer emails. We don't even have a product that we sell to consumers. We only sell to real estate agents, so we would have no need to do that. But our privacy policy that's listed on the website is very explicit. We do nothing with these email addresses other than to use them for your account. We believe we're an agent for you, so we don't do anything with those email addresses at all.
And so if I have there's a lot of questions about this portion. If I have a brokerage account and one of my agents uploads their contacts into the system, does the broker have access to their email addresses?
The broker does not, unless the broker made a deal with you that they would have access, and you'd allowed them to have that access.
Okay, got it. Here's another one. I already have the new newsletter, but have never had any training on how to utilize the system. Where can I get training?
Well, that's a good question, but it's very timely. We just started, in fact, it's yesterday, we sent out a newsletter called HomeActions Happenings. And that's a monthly newsletter about our firm and what's happening in our firm. And we have introduced, through that newsletter, 2 training sessions per week that you can come to. And we just started promoting it, but that's one of the new things that we just started. In fact, the first one was today. So that's a timely question.
Okay, so here's another one about the, explain again the target market articles and additional fee.
Well, the target market articles are articles that you can select from our database to use in your account. You select them by category. You're not selecting an individual article. You're selecting, like, let's say you go after luxury. You can select luxury. And all the articles that we have in luxury are available for you to use, and you will just put a check mark into which one you want to use, and it'll go out in the newsletter in the period that you say that you want to send it out. With respect to pricing, we haven't decided on pricing. What I've pretty much decided to do is that if you buy a newsletter, we'll give you 1 target market free.
Okay.
So that let's say you're from New York and you want urban content. Well, you can look at the 9 categories we have and you say, I want urban, you'll get it free. Now, if you want other content, we're probably going to sell them for maybe $99 a year per category, and maybe bundled 3 categories together for some discounted price. Honestly, we haven't decided. We made a big investment in building these target market articles, and I have to have some way of recouping part of that investment.
Got it. Okay, here's a good one. How does a new agent in a new market without much of a database benefit, how do they make HomeActions work for themselves? So somebody younger in the business.
Yeah, they have to develop a plan for how they're going to get email addresses. Now, you can't go out and buy a list and put it into the platform because that violates the CAN-SPAM Act. And it also reduces our ability to keep our sender score high. So if we discover you bought a list and tried to put it in, we're going to, we're not going to let that list go in. So if you were a new agent, what I would do is I would first put in all my family and friends and relatives. That's the first place to start. And then I would start on some kind of a program of collecting email addresses from everybody that you meet. And you're going to be surprised that it doesn't matter whether they own a home, they're thinking of buying a home, they never want to buy, they want to stay in apartments. All you have to do is just get their email address and ask them if it's okay if you send them a newsletter. And I guarantee you that if you do this and you have a program and you measure it, and you say to yourself, I'm going to have a goal of getting 10 a week. Just think of that, just 10 a week. How hard really and truthfully is that? Or you begin asking some of your friends who you can send it to, or you put it on social media and start promoting it there. You will surprise yourself how many you can get. And I guarantee you that at the end of the year, you'll have 500 emails in the platform. Now, are you going to start out with 500 from day one? No, you're not, but it's like anything else. It's a concept of networking and building it up and having a system.
Okay, here's another pass. How much time is required of an agent to add the local articles? And what's the overall time required of an agent to send out a newsletter every couple of weeks?
Well, as I mentioned, 80% of the agents that we have don't do anything. They don't add any content. I don't embrace that, but we provide enough content in the platform and enough branding for you. You don't actually have to touch it. It's a set it and forget it system. When you come into the system and you sign up, you tell us, when do you want to launch? I want to launch every other Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. We set it up that way. It automatically goes out. Now you have until, I think it's 12 hours before that launch time to add any content that you want. If you don't add that content, the newsletter's going to go out. It's on set it, forget it. Then you're going to get all the branding that you want. If, on the other hand, you want to be more marketing-oriented, you want to get a little bit more involved, then you can begin looking at trigger articles, target market articles, and other areas to be able to use this as a true lead-generating system. So everybody has different goals and objectives. I talk to some people and they say, I just need a way of staying in touch and I don't need to do anything. Other people say, I want to use this to be able to generate new leads. Well, if you want to generate new leads, you're going to have to put some effort into it. You're going to have to add some content. And you're going to have to look at some of these trigger articles. So it's all a question of what your goals are.
And here's
I will tell you this. I will tell you one thing, and I just want to be sincere when I tell you. If you're not going to add emails to the system, don't buy it. Save yourself some money. I tell you, we have a lot of people that buy the system, and they don't add any emails. Even though we're willing to collect the emails, they just can't get themselves organized enough to do it. I would rather you not buy the platform if that's what you're going to do, because my goal in life is to have raving fans, and I want to have as high a renewal rate as possible. And I want to reduce the churn of real estate people leaving the industry, because we see a lot of people leaving the industry because they're not making enough money. They're not making enough money because they're not marketing effectively. Right. And I want to be part of the program that stops that.
So here's a related question to what you just said, Barry. How many email names in our database should we accumulate before we sign up for HomeActions? Is there sort of a minimum number that you would suggest?
No, I would say start it right away Start it with 5, start it with 10, start it with 20. It doesn't make any difference. What makes, because you can add any time that you want. What makes a difference is whether you have a program to collect them in the future. It's having that discipline to collect them. It's having the discipline that when you go to an open house to gather those names and put them into the system. It's having maybe a marketing idea that if you have an open house in a particular market, why not go around or send some college kids around into that community and say, look, we're having an open house. We'll probably have others. Would you like us to stay in touch with you to be able to let you know these things? I believe people will give you their email addresses if there's something in it for them.
Gotcha.
So okay,
we are
ways to collect.
We are over time here, which I appreciate everyone that's hung on the phone. And there were a couple of questions that were from current customers about pricing it, and things like that. What I would suggest for you guys is that you just, if you see on the screen, B. Friedman at HomeActions.net or Barry Friedman at 301-947-1429, I would suggest you call Barry directly, and he will work those out for you. One other quick question. Someone asked about cancellation. What is the cancellation policy? And then we'll let you go, Barry.
Well, the cancellation policy, if you buy an annual plan, you can cancel within 30 days.
Okay.
And you'll get a full refund. If you buy a monthly plan, you can cancel at the end of any month that you want.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone that attended today. I hope that you found this to be a very interesting and engaging conversation. And Barry, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights. And we'll have a great day. Now, we will be sending all of you a thank you note, which will include a recording of the session in case you'd like to share it with anyone else. Feel free to send any feedback over to RE Technology if you have any thoughts about this webinar as well. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.